Welcome back to another episode of the Moments of Joy podcast. I am elated to have our special guest today, Melanie Oates, with us. Welcome to the show, Melanie.
Thank you, Camille. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So, me and Melanie met almost 2 years ago now, right?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, we've never even met in person, but we've met online and through Clubhouse and had many conversations up till today. And so I'm so excited for you to be on the show.
Me too.
So, Melanie, you have two children who are special needs or have a disability. And I wanted to have you on because you've been such a source of resource, just yourself, for myself and for so many people. I would have never known about what an ABLE account was, first of all,
Yes.
if it wasn't for you. And one thing that I saw that you have that's forever imprinted in my memory is this big binder for your daughter
Yes.
with like every doctor's appointment,
Everyone.
every note.
I got two of them now. It's her
Wow.
whole 10 years on
Yes.
paper.
Yes.
Hmm.
Wow. So let's get to it. I guess we'll start with your son, and bring us back to that moment of his diagnosis.
Yeah. So my son Julius, he's 10 now, but going backwards, age 2.5 is when we got his diagnosis. There were things that actually it wasn't me that noticed some of them. It was some of my daughter's
Mm.
therapists, which will make more sense in the conversation. But they actually started picking up on things. And
Wow.
I was like, oh, I guess I should take him to, psychiatrists. And one thing led to another. And then he had his autism diagnosis at age 2.5.
Wow. Okay, wait. How far apart are Janelle and Julius? Are they twins?
Yeah, they're twins. Technically,
I
1 minute
remember
apart.
that. Oh my gosh, they are
Yep.
twins. Now that is so interesting.
Hmm.
So, at the moment of conception, well, no, the moment of birth, did you already know what Janelle's diagnosis was?
I had no idea. No idea. The
Wow.
only thing that I knew was that she was growing smaller than her brother. But with them being twins, that's something that's usually common. So there was a lot of things that were overlooked. I didn't do the amniocentesis. I didn't do genetic testing. I didn't do any of that. So the only thing I knew was that, okay, my daughter's going to be a little bit smaller than her brother. That was it. But that was not
Wow.
the case at all.
Was not the case. And what was the moment that you as mom said, okay, wait a minute, there's something more than size going on?
Yeah, the twins were about 4 months old. Janelle spent about 2 months in the NICU while Julius was home. So there was a difference there, right? But the rubber met the
Mm-hmm.
road when they were about 4 months old. And I started noticing Julius was doing things that his sister wasn't. Like tummy time or grabbing a toy. Sometimes back then we had a little printout of like milestones. 3 months they should be doing that. 6 months they should be doing that, right? But there was just a
Yeah.
huge difference. And that's when I realized, okay, there is something going on because she is not on the same level that Julius is. He was already delayed himself, so you can even understand the
Right.
magnitude. But yeah, I started to
Mm-hmm.
notice stuff around 4 months.
Wow.
Hmm.
And how did you receive the diagnosis for her?
Oh, it was in a phone call actually. So fast forward to
Mm-hmm.
when they were 11 months. We did a lot of testing in between there, right? So I brought it up to her doctors. Hey, something's going on. We did MRIs. We did additional like brain scans and stuff like that. It led to a genetics test. So they tested, it's basically her DNA. And that's when a geneticist doctor called me and said, hey, we want to let you know. Well, this is how the conversation went, literally. Ring, 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 ring.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, is this Melanie? Yes. Are you sitting down? Is this a good time? And it was caller ID, so I knew who it was. But that's how they prefaced the conversation. Is this a good time? Are you
Wow.
sitting down? And they proceeded to tell me that my daughter had a Very rare genetic disorder, no name to it. Scientifically, it's called a pathogenic terminal deletion on chromosome 7. There is no shortened name for that. I just call it a chromosome deletion, but that's how it went. A phone call, and I was left to figure things out for myself after that.
And I'm just sitting here like, if you get a phone call like that, you have no idea what that even is. What are they even talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, it was about 45 minutes. The person that was on the other end of the phone was
Mm,
a genetics counselor. So it wasn't even the actual
okay.
doctor. She was just reading, the report. But she was
Mm,
able to spend that time with me and kind of explain it to
that's
me
beautiful.
from a scientific standpoint, but from
Right.
a, prognosis, here's what you can expect. There was nothing to go off of because Janelle technically is the only one in the world that has that unique deletion. So,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. How that's so rare, and I have to say it's amazing that the doctors even found that out so early,
Mm-hmm.
that they would test and be able to find that out.
Yep. It was all based on her, genetics testing. They determined that.
Mhm.
What I did find out in retrospect, if people go through like IVF process, intro IVF. I'm not even gonna try to say
Mhm.
what it stands for, but in those cases, usually there's a procedure where they'll do, these are good eggs or embryos. These are your good embryos, quote unquote. We
Mhm.
out of
Mhm.
the 6 embryos that we got, 2 out of them were very good. The other 4 were quote unquote bad, right? Now, if you think on a broader
Mhm.
perspective, the bad could be in a lot of different things. Missing a chromosome, it could be,
Mhm.
abnormalities, it could be a whole bunch of stuff. So there is ways where you can tell, but we didn't go through that process. I didn't do IVF. It was just
Right.
natural.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and they only just started to test, to see if it was a boy or a girl just, more recently
Mm-hmm.
too. We couldn't even tell anything inside,
Exactly.
unless you went and did that long. What they said it was a scary needle that you put in your stomach to test. But who wants to do that?
Exactly. I opted not to. Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you feel in that moment, and what was your response?
In that moment, it was very surreal. Mind you, I was home by myself. I was married at the time, so
Mhm.
I did have a partner, but he wasn't home with me. So here I am, first time mother. I wasn't around family. My family lived miles away. So in that moment, it was like, okay, this is what it is. But then on the flip side, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. What the
Mm.
heck am I supposed to do? It was the relief, but then the reality of, girl, you're in for something like that you have no idea what you're about to experience. It's very scary and isolating and
Mhm.
lonely. There was no Instagram, there was no none of that. It was, let me go on Google, and you had these little forums and stuff. Like that was during those times, which weren't very helpful either.
Mhm.
Add on the fact that it was very rare. So I didn't know what to search for. It's very, very, very isolating.
Yeah, that does add a different level of stress, because even when explaining it to family and friends, you can't even really compare it to anything because she's the only one.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. So now that she got the diagnosis before she was 1, how does life continue on for you at that moment?
I became a advocate. I won't even say
Mhm.
I was a mom. Like obviously I was a mom, but I feel like I was something completely different. I was the researcher. I was the geneticist. I was the social service. Like I was everything. It was a lot. It's like a train running right into you, but you survive and you got to deal with that impact and deal with life and figure things out on your own. Advocate for my child, talking to doctors who don't understand what the issue is, figuring out, okay, what is a neurologist versus a cardiologist versus an ophthalmologist, like all this Like, am I in medical school or am I her mother? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, you probably learned a lot more than some medical students.
Yes.
Is that what made you start to build that binder that I spoke about?
It was because after every appointment, we always get a paper printout. So it just started with, I just need somewhere to put this stuff. But then later down the road, once I realized that the system, quote unquote, the system is not really connected, I'm talking to person A over here from this department in physical therapy who has no idea how her cardiology and her heart condition affects her mobility. Like, I had to have something to tie the pieces together. So that's really what
Mhm.
grew my binder. Then became the dividers. Then became, okay, these printout summaries. Then became, I need somewhere to put these business cards. Like, it just grew from there.
Wow. Wow. You gave me so many ideas when I first saw it. I was like, I need to hold on to these papers that I'm getting because
Yes,
God knows where they are today. But we should hold on to everything.
you really should, because they really do come in handy, especially in emergency situations. um
Mhm.
it's great if you're at one hospital that has one system, but a lot of times it's not like that, especially having a child with different specialists. Have your x-ray
Right.
reports, right? You get an x-ray, let me see the x-ray so I can take a picture of it. Don't just give me a report. I'm not an x-ray specialist, I'm a visual person. Let me show this person that, let me put it in the binder. You know what I mean? It's so important to have your
Mhm.
documentation.
Yeah, that's one thing to definitely take away. Um, so as your children begin to grow, you have twins, and you said that it was Janelle's doctors who or therapists who sort of told you that, hey, you should look at Julius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Wow.
was
And
because
did
they
I
started coming to my house. When I tell you, after about 11 months and I got that diagnosis, advocacy came into place. I realized, oh, there's these services. People are coming into my home for Janelle, great, but then they can't help but see another kid. He's
Mhm.
lining up toys and only playing with a certain thing for like the whole session. They're there for an hour and he's stay playing with one
Wow.
toy. So
Hmm.
yeah, they definitely, kudos to them for just speaking up about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they could have, and that's probably because they knew your temperament and that you would be approachable.
Yes,
Sometimes it can be scary.
that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
try to be as welcoming as
absolutely.
possible.
Hmm. And so once Julius now, has autism, did you take on a level of guilt or feel like, oh, another thing wrong?
I did, but it wasn't to the magnitude of how I felt about Janelle, because Julius, he was he was doing some of those milestone things. So in my head it's like, dang, all right, this is why he's been lining up all this stuff. Okay, let me make sure he gets, OT, occupational therapy, and get the services. But it didn't hit me as hard as Janelle. It just was more so like, all right, cool. God said he'll never put more on you than you can bear. This just another bag. Let me get the other arm, put it on, and we gotta keep it moving. In a way, I felt that it was easier to manage because I had already gone through some of the stuff with Janelle for those few years. I wasn't an expert, but it wasn't 14 different doctors that I had to keep up with him. It was now, two different ones. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
huge reality check, huge, not damper, but like an impact to the situation. But it wasn't to
Mhm.
the magnitude of feeling like there's another train that just struck me from the back when I just got one from the front.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. Because for Janelle, as she began to get older, what did her limitations look like?
Oh, to put it in perspective, she was like a 6 month old, still at age 3. I was super excited when she was 3.5 and she just started holding her bottle like with two hands. I
Hmm.
was noticing all of those small things that were major, huge or major milestones. Um, But I got introduced into, adaptive equipment very early, wheelchairs. I had to adjust how we lived. We needed to be on one level and not have stairs, like, because I'm still carrying her. It was
Yeah.
it it was a lot. It was a lot, but it's like taking care of an infant that just gets bigger and bigger, but doesn't really get out of that infant stage.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You have been like one of the queens of resources. And as I'm um becoming more resourceful, I realized that there's a difference between the person who is so resourceful, they're going to go find the resources that are out there, and the person that just doesn't know, or maybe they do know, but they just don't have that extra push to go get the resources. So I wonder for you, how did you just jump right into finding resources? Were there numbers you called or people you spoke to? Because some people just don't know that even just calling a number could open up the world for you. People just don't know.
Hmm. I think by nature, I gotta figure it out type of
Mm,
person. Um,
yeah,
like
yeah.
my profession is understanding how computers work, right? And in my
Mm,
mind, I'm like, there's always going to be a way you can make something happen, even if it's so complex as a piece of technology. Taking that same perspective with my child, there's going to be some way that I can figure it out. Let me keep asking the questions. Let me not take no for an answer, right? Let me get different perspectives. If I see somebody out in the store who has a child, in a wheelchair or whatever, let me go up to them and ask them a question. That's what helped me. Just not being afraid to ask different questions
yeah,
and not taking no for an answer. Because if it's up to
yeah.
me to do it. You know what I mean? I can tell my
Mm-hmm.
family, hey, this is what's going on, but they're still trying to figure out what pathogenic chromosome deletion means.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That going up to somebody in the grocery store or another person that has a wheelchair, that is the piece right there.
Hmm.
Like, ask someone else and don't feel so, ashamed or private, or, just like you can't talk to someone about what you need.
Exactly. And you don't even have to ask them a specific question. Open it up as an icebreaker because it is kind of awkward for somebody to randomly say, hey, I see your kid's in a wheelchair. What doctor do you go to? Like,
Right.
don't even do that.
Right.
Start with, oh, I've been looking for a wheelchair for my daughter. Where'd you get yours from? And then go from there.
Yeah.
Oh, who referred you? What doctor?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to kind of break the ice a little bit, even though it's a small window of time. They just want to get their groceries and go. You don't know what their day is about,
Mhm.
but take advantage and
Yeah.
take the opportunity just to. The community is so small, and I bet you the person that you're asking, they're probably happy that, oh, wow, somebody else can relate to what I'm going through. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. I've enjoyed you showing clips of your family, showing clips of the hard times that we go through as caregivers, and um, some of the hard decisions that you've had to make. And totally honored you for that. And I'm like, people have no idea. So, one of the decisions that you've made recently is to put Janelle in a 24/7 respite care
Hmm.
facility. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the absolute hardest decision that I've ever had to do. I still,
Yeah.
am dealing with the decision that I made, but not in a bad way. Right now,
Right.
at the time of this conversation, she's been in there for almost a year. But what led to it was because we lost all of our in-home nursing care. When you talk about resources and services, Janelle started having in-home skilled nursing services at age 2. She's now
Wow.
10. So she went into the
Mm.
center when she was 9. But that's a lot of years where
Mhm.
we had services. Then the pandemic hit. We all heard about shortages. We all heard about, nurses not wanting to do nursing, or it was a whole thing.
Mhm.
But what led me to making the decision was just because from a physical standpoint, Janelle think like what I had said. She's like an infant. She's 10, well, 9 at the time, so I'll use that age. She was 9, but, completely total care. We no longer had our
Right.
nurses. She has a twin brother. Um, the magnitude of her care is it's severe. And unfortunately, she got extremely sick. She got extremely sick and she was in the hospital for 45 days. And everybody has gone through this. If you've been in the hospital, somebody from social services or their whatever, the clinical administrative department is going to come in the room and ask you, do you have everything that you need at home for your child? They ask you that some way, somehow. I had to just take a deep breath and I literally said, look, I don't know how you're going to respond to this, but I'm letting you know right now, I don't have what I need for Janelle at home. She needs to be somewhere that she can have the 24-hour 7 care. In no way, Miss Lady, am I telling you that I can't take care of her. I don't have the mental competence. I'm not saying that, but I'm letting you know if she comes home, she does not have what she needs. She does not have the care.
Right.
So I had to put my pride aside. I had to put my mom's guilt
Ooh.
aside and
Yeah.
make the decision. So, yep.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it was from there that the social worker gave you the resource to go ahead and place her?
Ironically, no. The social worker from the
Wow.
hospital told me that, well, the only thing that you can do is give your child up to foster care and then the state will be able to take care of her. Absolutely not. That is not what I'm doing.
Right.
So here goes Melanie,
Mm-hmm.
that deja vu, 11 months old, right? I found out she had the diagnosis and I
Mm-hmm.
went into advocate mode. No, there's got to be another way. So I figured out another way. There's a facility that exists that is specifically for pediatrics or kids 21 and under, and they have the exactly what I was looking for, where I keep all of my rights. I am not giving my child up to the
Right.
state. Absolutely not. That is not what we're doing.
Absolutely not. Hmm. Absolutely not. But when you shared that reel, I commended you because I said people just can't even wrap their brain around the day to day that it takes to take care of your child in that magnitude. But then you have to take care of your other children. You have to take care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
with no help, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can only relate to the fact that I don't have help for Mason and he's running around. And he's able to you know walk and say a few things and eat, but you have to still be in infant stage when then you have another infant and a child to take care of too.
Exactly.
And so that's why resources are in place for caregivers to receive that kind of assistance. And so how is Janelle doing?
She's doing phenomenal. She's in her center. She has a roommate. It's like the first time that I actually went to go visit her, I saw her and her roommate watching the TV in their room, cracking up laughing. So even though Janelle's physical presence isn't in my home, and as a mother, that gets to me. But when I see the
Mhm.
benefits of what's happening to her, she has that interaction. She has that constant feel of someone around her. She's not just sitting in her room because I can't physically pick her up because, I have a herniated disc and like, or we can't go anywhere.
Mhm.
It's like in a way, when I first went in there, I was like, dang, I feel like I probably should have done this sooner. You know what I mean? Because she's getting so
Yeah.
many things. Everything is there. She has
Hmm.
weekly blood work done every week to make sure everything's going
Wow.
right because she can't physically tell you I'm sick or my throat hurts or like we have to rely on her labs. What's her white blood cell count? What's this number? So that
Mhm.
can tell the story about her. And it's been a
Yeah.
huge benefit and a huge plus. And we see her all the time. There's a lot of stigma around what I did, but it's
Mhm.
because either people, I don't know, they've experienced something and they think everything's like that, or they just don't
Yeah.
have the magnitude to understand like
Yeah.
why people have to do it. But it's
Mhm.
the pros definitely outweigh the cons. You definitely do.
Yeah. And sometimes we only have TV to relate to. We have no idea. We've never met a person. We don't even have one lick of understanding about why,
Mm-hmm.
something like that would need to take place. So that's
Exactly.
why I appreciate you letting the world of Instagram into that moment. Like that was crucial for so many of us
Yeah.
to actually see. Another thing that I noticed was that you had such a village, and I think I want to touch on that and ask you, about building a village, because sometimes in raising children with disabilities, we stay in an isolated place and we don't allow people in. And
Mm-hmm.
so, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to build a village?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes back to me just being, an open person, and then also wanting to share and tell people this is how you can help. These are ways, if you are saying one thing, right? Call me anytime. I'll come over and help, and then you don't do it, I'm going to hold you accountable for that. And if you're going to be part of this village, you need to understand that. And my village expands even to, I think about her respite center as part of the village. That phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, I truly believe that, especially in this community for, parents like us. It is huge to have supporters who, even if they don't understand the actual diagnosis, at least they're there, you have the support. They mean what they say. They don't make it hard. I was talking to somebody one day and they were like, don't ask me, hey, are you hungry? You want me to pick you something up to eat? No, if you're supporting, hey Melanie, you want tacos or lasagna? Like, make it
There you go.
easy. We already got to think about
Hmm.
so much. Make it easy, and you got to be kind of a teacher to your village, but not in a way where it
Yeah.
stresses you out. But you got to kind of have that
Hmm.
balance because it's new for them too. You know what I mean?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so big boy Julius, now he's also 10 years old because they're twins. And so how is he doing? And what for him, is he still in any therapies during the day? Is he in general education or
Yeah.
a self-contained
He
person?
has an IEP, individualized education plan. It's a service, it exists. We're going to make sure we utilize some things. So he still has
Right.
his IEP. He's in, they call it general population. I hate that term, but that's just what they call it, right?
Hmm.
Which is the general
Yeah.
education, right? So he's in,
Hmm.
his general education classes, but he also has that additional support to get additional time on tests to make sure the teachers are breaking down different concepts, so he understands it. He's a very literal kid. So if you say, on the paper, please give me the solution, but in his mind, he thinks the word answer, I need the answer. If the paper says solution, he's not going to be able to understand what it means. So just having the additional support and ensuring that teachers understand this is how this student in your class operates. I need you to make sure you're giving him what he needs so he can be the best kid that he can be. So yeah, he still has the in class support, and he has speech therapy as well.
Hmm. That's amazing. As he grows, how do you see him changing? I always wonder about that shift from being a little boy to like that preteen stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how they change, socially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely. I'm starting to see it now.
Hmm.
Physically, like his voice is starting to get deeper, which I'm like, oh my gosh, he's
Hmm.
not my little baby anymore. But that's already started. But also
Right.
his characteristics. He's still
Yeah.
he when he was younger, it was like he wanted to play with blocks with the letters and the blocks with the numbers. But now that has transitioned into coding for programming. He's still
Mm,
very repetitious,
wow.
so that's never changed, but it's shifting into a more mature way. And it's just amazing to see how his love for math at the age of 3, when he couldn't even tell me a sentence, but he could tell me what 22 times 5 is, that,
Yeah.
that gift, because that's what I call it, that is transitioning
Mhm.
into his preteen, into, oh, he may be an engineer or he may work for, NASA or something. So it's
Yeah.
definitely already starting to happen, and I'm loving seeing it. I'm loving seeing it.
That's amazing. Mason loves numbers too, so that makes me
Listen,
smile.
Come on, next master and programmer.
Yeah. Was Julius ever in self-contained class?
What do you mean, self-contained?
Like the special education in school,
Oh, so no,
or was he always in general
yeah, all
education?
general ed. Janelle was in, the self-contained, but Julius, no.
Yeah.
And they went to the same school as well before she went to her
Oh
center.
wow.
They're very big on
Yeah.
inclusion. So general, like reading and all that
Wow.
stuff, she was isolated, but lunchtime, music class, art, all those were in conjunction, which I loved.
That's beautiful. I love that. Um, so before I let you go, you have done a good job of making sure that you prioritize your mental health. You take those moments to take care of yourself. And for parents who sometimes struggle with that and never take a moment for themselves, can you speak to the importance of that?
Oh, absolutely. It is so important for you to take care of you first. Because if you don't, they feel it. And I know it's very cliche, but like when you go on the airplane and they say, put your oxygen mask on first before anybody else, it took me a while to understand that. Like, I'm not putting mine on first for my kid. What you mean? But when you think about it from a bigger, grander scheme, you got to keep you in check, in balance. Give yourself a no day. I call it a no day. Some people call it self care
Hmm.
day. And self care does not mean you got to go get your nails done, get a massage,
There
no.
you
You
go.
can just sit in the house and say, you know what, I'm not cooking today. We're gonna order delivery food service or some pizza, whatever. Like, give yourself that balance. You have to do it. It's so important because coming from me, who's been I survived a suicide. Like, it is that
Hmm.
important. And this happened way before I even had kids. So
Hmm.
I understand the magnitude of the importance of keeping you focused. And even if you don't think there's such thing as balance, create boundaries. Understand that the word no is a complete sentence, right?
Yes.
You gotta make sure that you're good. Because if you're not, it can just snowball and then you don't know when it's gonna explode.
There you go. That's so good and so real. Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us today. Would you please let the listeners know where they can find you on social media?
Yes, you can find me. Best places on Instagram under Melanie Oates, Oates. And there's an underscore afterwards, but Melanie Oates underscore on Instagram. And DM me, follow me, whatever. I'm
Yes.
open book.
Yes. Connect with Melanie. Ask her questions. She knows a lot, a lot. And follow her journey with her beautiful children. Thank you so much for joining today. And always remember, you always have the option to choose joy. Bye bye.